Turns out that President Cyril Ramaphosa is very good at the Stalingrad strategy. Andrea Johnson resigns. The question is whether this is the end of IDAC. And 31 million rand is not a lot of money, according to Minister Gayton McKenzie. Welcome to the Political Insider. Before we kick off, thank you so much for subscribing. This really has helped us to grow the channel, and if you have not yet subscribed, just hit the button below the screen that says subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. You'll get notifications every time we bring out a new episode of the Political Insider. So, President Cyril Ramaphosa played the Stalingrad strategy and he won. The Western Cape High Court decided that President Cyril Ramaphosa's delicate reputation is way more important than the South African population getting to hear what really went on at Phala Phala. Right? It is way more important that our senior politicians are not being held to account rather than our president getting his reputation sullied by questions which he might find awkward. Two of the three judges that heard the case probably realized at the last minute that it's actually the politicians who appoint the judges, and then found in favor of the president. Judges Andre Lagranci, who headed up the panel, and Diane Davis found that the president's potential reputational harm was way more important than the decision by the Constitutional Court that that the case should proceed, or that the people of South Africa, who are desperate to hold one senior member of our parliament accountable for something. But these judges decided that that was way more important. And this just proves what we've known all along, is that this strategy does work. What is the strategy that we hear? Well, the strategy is to use ongoing legal challenges on any grounds, in any court, in the hope that one just goes your way. And this can go on for years. Eventually, the accused or the person involved in the case dies of old age, or we all just forget about it, or we all just say, keep the money, or who cares? We've got new problems to worry about. To understand just how successful the strategy has been, just consider that it's the 28th year since charges were first brought against Jacob Zuma in his arms deal cases, and we're no closer to wrapping that one up. So if President Cyril Ramaphosa is just as successful as Jacob Zuma, he will be more than 100 years old and counting before the case moves forward. So what exactly did the judges say? In essence, the High Court has decided that Parliament is incapable of holding the president accountable in any way that they would make it seem like the president is accountable. If that makes any sense to you, right? They have decided that Parliament, who we elect to represent us, is incapable of keeping the president accountable, and the mere act of keeping him accountable makes them incapable of keeping him accountable. There you have it. Now, we are no doubt going to have Parliament appealing this ruling, and then another hearing, and then we'll be wishing each other a Happy New Year, welcome to 2027. The local government elections will be over, and it's a countdown to the ANC's elective conference at the end of the year, and then Parliament will win that case, and then the president will appeal that at the Constitutional Court, and he will win because members of the Constitutional Court are appointed by the president, and they will find in his favor, and then we will watch the ANC's elective conference in December 2027, and then we'll be wishing each other a Happy New Year, welcome to 2028, and by then the ANC will have a new leader, and former President Cyril Ramaphosa will resign, and there'll be no reason for impeachment. Job done. Some enthusiastic someone will open a criminal case, but it'll only be about 7 or 8 years since the money was stolen from his couch. And by then, we would have forgotten he will no longer be the president. And we'll be more interested in the corruption case involving then President Paul Mashatile or President Fikile Mbalula. That is exactly how the strategy works. You just keep on fighting cases in the hope you win one or two or something, and it costs 6 months at a time. And you keep on doing this, and twice a year you get to go. And if you're the president, the really nice thing is you don't even have to pay for your defense, because we pay for his defense. Us, the people who want the justice, don't even get the justice, and we get to pick up his account for his defense. So he goes in with the top lawyer of the day, 3 or 4 of them. Why not? You're not paying. Just keep on going. Just keep on going. Get more and more cases to hear. More and more cases to hear. Right? And away we go. And the president can then retire. But the real issue is we know about Phala Phala. We know what went on by the president's own admission. We know what various state bodies did in keeping him out of court. We know that he got away with stuff that you and I as citizens could never get away with. This is exactly what the Constitutional Court, what the Constitution was set up to avoid. When politicians become untouchable. And well done to the Western Cape High Court, you have managed to achieve exactly that. If you are president, you become untouchable. We could, within a year, see a new president within, who knows, a year or so, a new president who has got 70 million rands worth of houses, and he hasn't even had the pretense of being a businessman. What happens when those go to court? Well, if you're a judge, you start saying, who appoints me? Who appoints the judges? I want a future in the Constitutional Court as a judge. Therefore, for one case, I'll just make a very interesting judgment, and legal scholars can talk about it forever. Just remember, in this particular case at the Western Cape High Court, they did everything that they didn't do in this case when Busisiwe Mkhwebane was impeached as public protector. They said she should account. They said, to hell with your reputation and the potential damage. This will proceed. When she challenged at court, when she tried her own lower level of the Stalingrad defense, the Western Cape High Court delivered her to her parliamentary committee to hear about her impeachment, and she lost her job. Right? But now they've gone and broken exactly their previous judgments in giving the president leeway. Do all you like. We will keep on this issue in the public's eye, and we will keep you informed as this thing goes along. Before we move on, let's thank our sponsors of this event, of this particular episode. It's not an event yet. Trade Nation. If you want to trade financial markets, currencies, commodities, shares on local stock exchanges or international ones, Trade Nation is the place for you. International company, they are represented in most of the financial capitals. Good platform to trade. Go visit tradenation.com if you want to trade markets. For the last couple of weeks, we have followed the travails of Andrea Johnson, the head of IDAC, the investigative directorate against corruption, who seemed to do everything, seems to be the investigative direction against crime intelligence. It has been a bad couple of weeks for Andrea Johnson. Firstly, she had health problems in her first trip to the Madlanga Commission. Then when she stopped having health problems, and she did actually make it to the Madlanga Commission, things went south quite quickly for Andrea Johnson. Amongst the many problems that made her position as head of IDAC untenable was an extremely poor technical grasp of the law, which was ruthlessly exposed by the commissioners. But I have some reservations that Johnson could be that bad at law as what we saw last week. And we've had now a chance to reflect on what went on. To me, on reflection, it's the same as when a cop stops you for speeding. Yeah, we all know what it's like. Suddenly you see the lights behind you, you know you've been going, or the guy jumps out, pulls you over. Says, "Excuse me, do you know that you are doing 120 in an 80 zone?" And you say, "I didn't know it was an 80 zone. I thought it was 120 zone." When you know full well what the speed limit was. Your expectation is that you hope that that speed cop, as we used to call them, or that metro policeman, or that traffic official says, "Oh, okay, well, I see you were confused. Okay, carry on." It never works, but we try it anyway, right? The real issue here is that she was trying to act like she didn't know the law, but she's a 30-year legal professional. She has worked in the Scorpions. She has worked for the National Prosecuting Authority. She knows law. Suddenly, she was acting like a buffoon. I don't buy it. Because the real issue here is IDAC were running interference on the actions of the political killing staff team headed up by Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi to stop the arrest of senior kingpins in crime syndicates and the very uncovering of this entire web of collusion between state actors, legal actors, and criminals to fleece us of billions of rand, to do what they did to the Tembisa Hospital, where they stole 2 billion rand. And if they could do it at the Tembisa Hospital, I'm sure they didn't stop there. And IDAC were front and center together with the Hawks, who were trying their best to stop certain arrests. Okay? Now, 3 possible reasons for this come to my mind as to why IDAC could have done it. Either Andrea Johnson was on, as they say, a frolic of her own. She had decided individually that she must stop this, and you can either put it down to incompetence or her own motivation or whatever it was, but she decided, without anybody else telling her, to stop these arrests of these criminal syndicates and kingpins at the criminal syndicates. That was option number 1. Option number 2, other people within IDAC were suitably incentivized, and they used their position to convince Andrea Johnson to sign off on this interference that they were going to run with the arrests of various criminally attached people like Katiso Molefe, Kat Matlala. Or option 3, it came from outside of IDAC. Some very influential political people sitting high above the food chain. Now, remember, Andrea Johnson and IDAC report to senior management at NPA. They report to the Minister of Justice. They report to the President. It's not like they report to a whole bunch of people. They're not, bobbies on the beat. These are people running a proper crime-fighting institution. They answer to the senior people. So the third option is, if it wasn't Andrea Johnson herself or other people at IDAC, then it must have been some senior political actors who instructed them to go and run interference on these arrests. And this must come to light, because I think of those 3 possibilities, the one that's least likely is the first one, that Andrea Johnson decided by herself to arrest crime intelligence people so that the potential actions of the PKTT were compromised. I would imagine that this sudden resignation of Andrea Johnson is an effort to have us believe that she was the sole motivator of this action. In other words, was nothing to see here, it was her. She's gone now. So therefore, let's not worry about this anymore. Andrea Johnson, take the fall for it. She's the one that did it. If this succeeds, it wouldn't be the first time that somebody took the fall for something, for a particularly sticky situation. I mean, just ask Ghislaine Maxwell, Somebody will always put their hand up saying, "I'll take one for the team." My deepest concern is that this works and the conversation becomes about, instead of who was this entire network that was trying to stop crime syndicates, is explained away by the incompetency of Andrea Johnson. And then also, let's not forget that even if she does get away with that, she herself faces real legal problems. In the case where she sent a case docket to Feroz Khan about an assault charge that he was facing. This allowed him to prepare his defense, do his own machinations, and that led to the case falling apart. Right? And this is a clear-cut case of defeating the ends of justice, and I doubt if she's going to get away with it. Unsurprisingly, President Cyril Ramaphosa accepted her resignation on the recommendations of the Justice Minister, Mameloko Kibai, and even assured the leadership and staff, listen to this one, the president assured the leadership and staff of the National Prosecuting Authority of government's unwavering support for its work against crime and corruption. If only the president would assure Parliament that they could hold him to account with Phala, but we've covered that already. Right? The last thing that a well-entrenched state capture apparatus needs is a fully functioning crime-fighting and corruption-fighting body such as IDAC. Right? I suppose the real question is not only who might succeed Andrea Johnson at IDAC, but the real question is whether IDAC will survive at all. Remember, we record this podcast from Podcast Room. If you want to record a podcast or a video for your company or anything else, visit podcast-room.co.za. Details are in the comment section below. Great place to do your recordings. On to our last story. Our Sports, Arts and Culture Minister, Gayton McKenzie, has defended the fact that he spent 31 million rand on his little jaunt to the Soccer World Cup, the recent FIFA World Cup. 31 million rand. It didn't help his cause that his defense was 31 million rand is not a lot of money for the government. Of course, this brought out a whole lot of sports bodies, including Athletics SA, that has not received its annual grant for 2026, saying perhaps 31 million rand is a lot of money. Now, let's go look at a few cases. Athletics South Africa usually receives 3.5 million in June. It's usually supplemented for a few other expenses by another 2 million rand. 5.5 million rand. So if 31 million rand is not a lot of money for the government, 5.5 million is surely not a lot of money. But they usually get paid in June. We're now at the end of July. They never got paid. The South African under-20 athletics team was due to compete in an international event in Oregon in the USA. According to Athletics South Africa President John Matane, they reached out to World Athletics to cover the 1.8 million rand accommodation bill, which Athletics South Africa promised to pay later when the government did give them money. But the athletes themselves had to cover the rest. This forced 54 under-20 athletes representing the country to cover their own costs. But 31 million rand is not a lot, according to Minister Gayton McKenzie. Then there's a case of the Protea hockey team. They're due to compete in the Hockey World Cup in Belgium and the Netherlands in August. It's pretty soon. The hockey players are faced with bills of 68,000 rand each. When one of the players, Tati Zulu, wrote an open letter in which she vented the frustration of being a Proteas hockey player and how exhausting and stressful it was to have to raise the money instead of focusing on her performance. She even said that players have to raise money so that they can buy ice packs, pay for physiotherapists, pay for laundry, pay for bottles of water, pay for gifts for teammates that they'd reach milestones. That's all funded within the team. But then suddenly, last Thursday, after the open letter hit, McKenzie announced that his department had made 3 million rand available for the Hockey World Cup, only after the open letter. Then it's come to light that the South African women's softball team had been told 2 weeks ago that they could no longer compete at the World Cup in September because they didn't get their money, they didn't get their grant. The same story for our swimmers, who are doing us so proudly at the Commonwealth Games. They don't get the money that's been promised to them. The best pool in the country, best competitive swimming pool in the country is Kings Park swimming pool in Durban. And that's been out of commission for a year, right, while it awaits repairs, and on it goes. It doesn't help Gayton McKenzie's case when he accuses people who criticize the World Cup junket as being small thinkers while he is a big thinker, and he's trying to grow the country by thinking big by bringing events like Formula One to South Africa. Really, our politicians are brilliant, especially in this government of national unity, because it seems like it's not only Gayton McKenzie who's a massive football fan. Oddly enough, the leader of the Good Party and our Minister of Tourism, Patricia de Lille, is also a football fan. She found a reason to visit Mexico with her spokesman, Aldrin Sampier, for a 2-day trip. 1 million rand they spent. The trip happened to coincide with Bafana Bafana's opening game against Mexico. But at least in the case of Patricia de Lille, we got off lightly, dear taxpayer. As I said, this one only cost us 1 million rand. Our politicians are a desperate lot, where they don't understand the value of money and they don't understand public service. The others get before you get. That is the best form of leadership, if only our politicians would understand that. Thank you so much for joining us on the Political Insider. We'll see you again soon.